Ever wondered who founded the Capetian Dynasty, one of the largest and oldest royal houses in Europe? The answer takes us back to the cusp of the first millennium, where the story of the Capetian Dynasty begins. The Capetian Dynasty, also known as the House of France, traces its origin back to the year 987. This dynasty was founded by a man named Hugh Capet, a figure of significant influence and power during his time. Hugh was a descendant of the Robertians, a powerful family that had its roots in the feudal period of the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages, a time of knights and castles, was also a time of profound social change. Europe was transitioning from the remnants of the Roman Empire into the feudal societies that would dominate the next several centuries. This was the world in which the Robertians and later the Capetians found their place. Hugh Capet, the founding father of the dynasty, was elected as the king of the Franks in 987. This marked the beginning of the Capetian reign over France, a reign that would span several centuries. But who were the Robertians, the ancestors of the Capetians? The Robertians were a family of great nobles who held lands in the region of Paris and Orléans. Over time, the Robertians rose to prominence, and it was from this noble lineage that Hugh Capet emerged. Hugh's ascension to the throne marked a turning point in French history. Prior to his reign, kingship was often a contentious issue, with various factions vying for power. But Hugh's rule brought stability and a new sense of order to the kingdom. He laid the groundwork for a dynasty that would shape the course of French and European history for centuries to come. Thus began the reign of the Capetian Dynasty, a seminal period in the history of France. From their humble beginnings in the feudal era, the Capetians would go on to become one of the most influential and enduring royal houses in European history. Scene script. Who were the kings that ruled under the Capetian Dynasty? Let's take a journey back in time to a period when the Capetian Dynasty was at its peak. The dynasty was founded by Hugh Capet, a man known for his wisdom and strategic alliances. His reign, which began in 987, marked the beginning of an era that would see the rise of 15 kings, all of whom would leave their unique mark on France. After Hugh Capet, his son Robert the Pious took the throne. Known for his devoutness, Robert's reign was marked by religious tensions and conflicts. Nevertheless, he was a king who valued peace and sought to maintain it throughout his reign. Robert was succeeded by his son Henry I. As the first French king to visit Rome, Henry strengthened ties with the church and worked to consolidate his power within his borders. His son, Philip I, succeeded him. Philip's reign was marked by military campaigns and territorial expansion. Despite his controversial personal life, he managed to strengthen the monarchy and expand its territories. Louis VI, known as Louis the Fat, succeeded him. Despite his nickname, Louis was a strong and effective ruler. He expanded the royal domain and fought against the rebellious nobility. The Capetian dynasty continued with a line of kings that included Louis VII, Philip II, Louis VIII, Louis IX, Philip III, Philip IV, Louis X, John I, Philip V, and finally Charles IV. With the death of Charles in 1328, the direct line of Capetian kings came to an end. However, the dynasty continued through its cadet branches, the houses of Valois and Bourbon. These houses would rise to power and continue the Capetian rule, further shaping the history of France. The reign of the Capetian kings was marked by power, influence, and a deep impact on the French monarchy. The Capetian dynasty was a time of growth and development, a period that would forever shape the landscape of French history. These kings, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, contributed to the formation of the French state, laying a foundation that would stand the test of time. What did the Capetians achieve during their reign? Now that's a question with a long list of answers. The Capetian dynasty, beyond simply ruling, was instrumental in laying the groundwork for the French nation-state. They didn't just sit on their thrones and issue decrees, they were active builders of a nation. The Capetians gradually increased their power and influence both within and outside of France. They developed many of the basic administrative institutions that would shape the French monarchy. These institutions helped to centralize power and create a more unified state. This was a monumental achievement that would influence the course of French history for centuries to come. But the Capetians were not only focused on administrative and political achievements, they were active participants in the Crusades, a series of religious wars initiated by the Latin Church in the medieval period. The Capetians joined these wars, often leading armies themselves. This gave them a prominent role on the international stage and added to their growing influence. The rule of the Capetians was a time of consolidation and expansion. Their reign lasted from 987 to 1792 and was briefly restored from 1814 to 1848. That's over 8 centuries of uninterrupted rule. Imagine that. 8 centuries of shaping, building, and leading a nation. It's mind-boggling to think about the amount of change and growth that occurred during this time. The Capetians were more than just rulers, they were nation builders. They played a crucial role in the formation of the French state. Through their administrative reforms, participation in international conflicts, and their long-lasting rule, they shaped the course of French history. They laid the foundations for the France we know today. So to answer the question we started with, what did the Capetians achieve during their reign? Well, they achieved a whole lot. They built a nation, led it through centuries of change, and left an indelible mark on the pages of history. The Capetians' rule was instrumental in shaping the French nation-state that we know today. What was the economic impact of the Capetian dynasty, you might ask? Well, it was indeed substantial, and it played a pivotal role in shaping the economic landscape of France as we know it today. Under the watchful reign of the Capetian kings, the French economy was transformed from a primarily feudal system into a thriving and dynamic economic power. Remember, this was a time when the economy was largely based on agriculture, and the Capetians were instrumental in introducing new farming technologies that increased productivity. The introduction of the heavy plow and the horse collar, for example, allowed for deeper soil cultivation and more efficient use of horsepower. This revolution in farming led to a significant increase in agricultural productivity, which in turn boosted the economy. But it wasn't just agriculture that flourished. Trade also saw significant expansion during this period. As the Capetian kings gradually centralized power, they implemented policies that encouraged trade. They established market towns, protected trade routes, and fostered relationships with neighboring regions. As a result, France became a hub for trade, connecting Europe with the broader world. This not only brought wealth into the kingdom, but also ideas, technologies, and cultural influences that enriched French society. The expansion of trade also led to the growth of towns. These urban centers became the heart of economic activity, fostering the growth of crafts and industries. Towns provided a space where merchants could trade goods, artisans could practice their crafts, and ideas could be exchanged. The increase in urban populations signaled a shift from a purely agrarian society to a more diverse and complex one. In essence, the Capetian dynasty didn't just rule France, they shaped its economic destiny. They laid the groundwork for the thriving economy that would continue to develop in the centuries to follow. Their influence extended beyond their reign, leaving a lasting economic legacy that is still evident today. The Capetians played a significant role in the economic development of France. Their reign was a period of economic growth, expansion, and innovation that set the stage for the France we know today. Did the Capetian dynasty's influence extend beyond France, one might ask? Indeed it did. The Capetians held sway over France, but their influence was not confined within the French borders. They extended their rule and established cadet branches that would go on to create their own legacies. The Capetian House of Bourbon, a significant cadet branch, still holds the reins of power in Spain and Luxembourg. Spain, under the Bourbon rule, has seen a mix of constitutional and absolute monarchies, while Luxembourg, a grand duchy, continues to be ruled by the Bourbon-Parma branch. The influence of the Capetians, therefore, is not a thing of the past. It is very much alive, shaping the political landscapes of these nations. However, every dynasty has its sunset, and the Capetian dynasty was no exception. The sun began to set on the Capetians with the death of Charles IV in 1328. Known as the Fair, Charles IV's reign was fraught with political unrest, and his demise without a male heir sparked the Hundred Years' War. The Capetian line of direct descent came to an end, and the crown passed to the House of Valois, a cadet branch of the Capetians. The final blow came during the French Revolution in 1792. The revolutionaries abolished the monarchy, marking the end of more than 800 years of Capetian rule. Though the monarchy was briefly restored in 1814, it was vacated again in 1830, this time for good. The fall of the Capetian dynasty marked the end of a significant chapter in European history. Yet their legacy continues to resonate, not just in the annals of history, but in the very fabric of present-day Europe. And so, while the dynasty may have fallen, the Capetians, through their far-reaching influence, continue to rule in spirit. What is the legacy of the Capetian dynasty? The Capetian dynasty, a remarkable force in European history, laid the groundwork for the French nation-state, contributing significantly to the evolution of administrative institutions. Its influence expanded beyond France, with cadet branches still reigning in Spain and Luxembourg. The dynasty's economic advancements and dedication to growth set the stage for the flourishing of modern Europe. The legacy of the Capetian dynasty continues to shape the world we live in today.